Hello, everyone. Welcome to LunchBytes, Season 1, Episode 5. So excited to have you. I'm Steph Rogers. I'm one of the developer audience PMMs over here for Microsoft UK for Azure, and I'm so excited to be joining you all. Just to welcome you all back, if you were here just 2 weeks ago, we had some amazing speakers that were talking about Build 2022 and recently introduced some of our new co-hosts. So we have Annika, Jane, and Tig. If you two would like to introduce yourselves real quick.
Hi everyone, my name is Annika. I'm the App Innovation Specialist at Microsoft, and I'm super excited to be here for this episode today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tig Brennan. I'm a Digital and App Innovation Cloud Solution Architect at Microsoft UK. Previously been on a few LunchBytes sessions, including one where I was speaking around Azure Arc and application services. So excited to be back on again.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you all. Typically, you guys would see wonderful Chris Reddington. He had to be out today, but we will definitely have him back as a guest speaker as he is going to be joining our fabulous friends on the team over at GitHub. So excited to see him in the next few months. Before we kick off the amazing content from our Simon Thurman, I just want to talk about some of our code of conduct. So just a reminder to be aware of others, be welcoming and respectful, be understanding of differences, be friendly and patient, be open to all questions and viewpoints, and be kind and considerate of others, especially in the comments. So to read more about our code of conduct or to report an issue, please go to aka.ms/events-COC. Just a reminder that today's show is also going to be available with live captions on Learn TV and YouTube. So please use the selector in the video. So captions will also be available for the on-demand when we record this. So, very excited to have you all for LunchBytes. As we said, this is Annika, this is Tig, I'm Steph. You can also find us on Twitter. Down below we have some of our handles, and you can find us here every other Wednesday for LunchBytes on Learn TV or YouTube, and also streaming on Twitch. We will be taking a small pause next week, but we'll be returning July 13th, and we'll have more information about that exciting new session when we get to the end of this presentation. So what is LunchBytes? Just a reminder that we are a new show, and we stream about every 2 weeks. And we have Tig, myself, and Annika joined by technical experts from across the UK to answer all of your top questions. And if you have any sort of suggestions for LunchBytes going forward, please let us know. That'd be awesome. So Tig, over to you for the Developer News Radar.
Brilliant, thanks, Steph. So I thought we'd continue in the normal structure with the developer news. And I hope everything has actually sunk in recently from Microsoft Builds, obviously only about 2 weeks ago. So still a lot of content really out there that we're all sort of getting used to at the moment. But actually, quite recently, there's a few new announcements. So I wanted to share some of those. And actually, the first one that I'd like to start with is the news that the static web apps CLI is now available. So this is fantastic news for developers. So you'll now be able to deploy your apps from your local systems directly to the Azure cloud. So some of the examples that we've got now is the command SWA init, which will initialize your project. You can deploy your project as well from the Azure command line as well. And so connect up your new web app up to Azure, get it running straight away. So brilliant news there. And I know our previous host, Chris Reddington, will be super excited to see this as a long-time advocate of static web apps. Now, the next announcement that I wanted to mention is the public preview of mounting Azure Files and Ephemeral storage in Azure Container Apps. So only about 2 weeks ago did we have the actual announcement of general availability of Azure Container Apps. And so this is really exciting to now see that we're getting a lot more developments in this area. So the announcement of mounting Azure Files and Ephemeral storage is quite important really for the use of loading large amounts of your data into your application without actually increasing the size of your container apps. And you can also use Azure Files to share some of the data with other containers and applications. So great news there. The next thing that I wanted to mention is actually a few different public preview announcements as well. Sort of small little items, but added together they'll add up to quite a lot. So the first one that I wanted to talk about is now in the Linux portal, the Azure portal. When you're editing Linux functions, you can now edit that within the Azure portal. So you get the same experience as you've had now with your Azure functions that are, for example, a JavaScript-based function sitting on a Windows service. Then you have the same features now within the Azure portal for your Linux functions, which is great to see. So things like developing whilst your function is live in Azure is something that now you can do in the portal, which helps really with that user interface and that user experience that you'll get. Next announcement is private link support in Azure Application Gateway. So with private link support, incoming traffic to an Azure Application Gateway front end can be secured to clients running in another Azure virtual network, an Azure subscription, or a subscription linked to actually a different Azure tenant through Azure Private Link. So this is great news for supporting traffic between private endpoints so that you can secure down that network traffic that you've got and allowing it to traverse a secured and private connection. Something that's actually really important. I see a lot of customers using Private Link nowadays to secure down their traffic that they're sending onto their applications through Application Gateway. And then the other public preview announcement is Azure load testing support coming for quick start tests. So all you have to do now is provide the web URL that you want to run the Azure load test on, and within 5 minutes or so, you can get those load tests up and running. So fantastic again for testing the reliability of your applications that you'll be running in Azure. Now, moving on to the GitHub side, there's a big announcement that happened on the 6th of June, and actually the announcement of GitHub Skills. So what GitHub Skills is a learning experience to help you throughout your GitHub journey. So what we've had before is we've got the Microsoft Learn platform, which is a fantastic resource for going through different learning paths and learning journeys, providing sort of gamified learning aspects to all things Azure and Microsoft. And now what we have with GitHub is GitHub Skills. So similar option of providing different kind of courses, so really popular courses like Introduction to GitHub or Communicate using Markdown, real sort of starter courses that can help any developer that's looking to learn a lot more about GitHub. You can really help you on your journey. And one of the other benefits of GitHub Skills is that actually you can use the open source courses to develop your own courses and host these on GitHub. So it uses things like GitHub Actions to run smoothly through the different learning journeys, but you can use GitHub Skills to create your own learning paths for developers within your own teams or teams within your own company, which I think is brilliant news to see. So that's been a quick run through of the developer radar and all the news, recent news within the last 2 weeks that we've had. And actually, I'd love to introduce our speaker for today, which is going to be Simon Thurman for our session. So Simon, do you want to give us a little introduction to yourself? Sorry, Simon, you're just on mute.
Sorry about that. Someone had to do it at some point. Hi, thanks, Ty. Hi, everyone. Pleased to meet you. I'm Simon Thurman. I'm Cloud Solution Architect in the app dev team with a focus on helping customers build stuff on our platform. Been working with Azure for quite a while and happy to share application insights with you today and take you through what it can do.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm really excited for today's session. So I'm going to hand over straight to you if you want to go through your slides.
Fantastic. Thank you. So you'll be pleased to know, or hopefully you'll be pleased to know, that most of this session is a demo. We'll be building something from scratch. So hopefully the demo gods are on our side today. But I just wanted to show a few slides up front just to give really what we're going to talk about some context. I'm a massive fan of kind of understanding where things fit and where you should be using it. So this slide here, I pinched from an Azure Fridays session. That's the session that Scott Hanselman does, has been doing it for quite a long time now. And one of the Azure MVPs presented this slide. And I really liked it because it gave some real simplicity around when to think about using application insights. And you can see application insights, that the bulb on the left-hand side of this slide. And it's all about application level. So if you're thinking about observability, monitoring, call it whatever you will, if you're thinking about that from your application, then application insights is where it's at. On the other side of things, by the way, the icon next to App Insights is App Center. So that's for mobile applications. That also now feeds into App Insights. So if you're thinking about mobile applications, then it's App Center, but also kind of integrating that with App Insights. So the answer again, even for a mobile app, is App Insights. The other monitoring solutions that we've got in Azure Monitor, Security Center, Advisor, you can see the icons on the right-hand side. They're at subscription level, which you're fine. And again, Application Insights fits into those, but they're at subscription level, and we're going to be looking at apps today. So I just wanted, again, to think about the sources that we have from telemetry on the left-hand side of things, and really holistically how you can utilize the platform. I'm a massive fan of understanding what the platform can give you and how you can utilize those capabilities so you don't have to build those things. And I think from a dev point of view, Application Insights has a real value proposition in order for developers to leverage the capabilities, which is what we'll be looking at. So how do you wire it up? Well, again, left-hand side is the different sources of telemetry. And as you'd expect from a platform point of view, so as your resources, subscriptions, tenant, there's zero instrumentation. You can simply wire up Application Insights and collect that telemetry. From an infrastructure point of view, if you've got deploying a virtual machine, be it Windows, be it Linux, you can deploy an agent. And in deploying that agent to that infrastructure, you can wire up Application Insights to that infrastructure. But what we're going to be looking at is the SDK. So we're going to be building an application, we're going to install the SDK, and we're going to use that SDK within our application. And the final method at the bottom of this screen on the left, like all Azure resources, you can access it via REST APIs. So if the SDK is not working for you, you can absolutely just call a REST API. Over on the right-hand side of the slide, we can see we've got metrics and logs. Now, metrics are very simple data structures, very simple values, and they're near real time. Logs, they're a little bit more complex data structures, and there's a little bit of latency in logs going through into the platform. You'll see that when we're doing the demo. I'm hoping the metrics come through in near real enough time so we can actually build stuff out and you can see it as we're building it along. So a real simple view, we're going to build an app, we're going to wire it up. That application is going to send telemetry to Application Insights service into the cloud, where we can leverage the platform to get different visualizations on that data. These are the types of things that we can expect, the types of telemetry. Again, this is kind of what the platform can give you. We've got availability tests. So if we have time, we'll wire up an availability test, and we can see how we can just simply maybe ping an API just to see that we've got availability there of that API. From an application point of view, you can see how that application is being used. And the thing, again, kind of going back to the value of the platform, and the thing that I think is a little bit underutilized within App Insights is the ability to create custom events and custom traces and custom metrics. So the ability to use the platform in order to capture the types of events that you're interested in. And these don't have to just be technical events. They can be business level events. So this is the app we're going to build. I appreciate it's really simple, but we're going to build it from scratch, and we're kind of tight on time here, so I needed to keep something quite simple. So we're going to build an ASP.NET MVC application. We're going to install the App Insights SDK, and we're going to wire it up to an App Insights instance that we'll create in the cloud. We're then going to build a function app, and we're going to wire that application up. Now, what's interesting is these only a few simple components. I appreciate that, but they are separate components. And what we'll see with wiring them up to App Insights and the same App Insights instance is that we'll be able to see those components talking together, and the platform will build that up for us for free. So let's dive into the demo. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a brand new instance of Log Analytics Workspace. So create a brand new instance. We'll put that in a brand new LunchBytes resource group. And we'll call this LunchBytes Log Analytics. And we'll stick everything in West Europe. Spell West Europe. Okay, we'll go validate that and then create it. Cool. Now, the reason why we're creating a Log Analytics workspace is that Application Insights now works with Log Analytics workspace, which is really cool because, again, it means that all of our telemetry is in one place. And then we can start to leverage the platform to analyze that information and access that information, i.e. we can use Azure Monitor that accesses Log Analytics to also access the telemetry that's coming from Application Insights, which is really quite cool. So that's done. So let's go now create Application Insights. Create a new one of those. Put it in the same resource group, and we'll call it LunchBytes Application Insights. Stick that in West Europe. And here's the resource model. You can see that now it defaults to workspace based, which is essentially Log Analytics workspace. We can see that Classic, which is the old way that Application Insights works, we can see it's being deprecated, and that will be retired in Feb 2024. So for sure, the way to go is Log Analytics workspace. So let's create that. So I just want to create one more thing whilst we're here, which is a function, because I don't want to wait for this later on. So we're going to create a function app. We'll call it LunchBytes Funky. You can see my naming standards here. Stick it on .NET, and we'll stick that in West Europe. Hosting's fine, networking's fine, monitoring. By default, it switches Application Insights on. We want to put that LunchBytes Funky. Okay, and now we can create that. Okay, so we've got Log Analytics Workspace created, we've got Application Insights created, and we're creating a function app that we can use later on. Here's my Application Insights. Not much happening there at the moment. So let's flip to VS Code. I'm in my C:\git directory. So let's start building this application. So .NET, new MVC, and we'll call it LunchBytes MVC. Okay, so if we go open that folder, navigate to LunchBytes MVC, select that folder, and no surprises here. We've got a typical Hello World model view controller with our models, our views, and our controller. So let me bring up a terminal. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, remember, is we need to install the SDK. So we need to .NET add package, and it's Microsoft application insights Net core. If I type that correctly and I go over to my project panel, we should see that install, and then we should see that reference in there. That's fantastic. So now we go to our app settings JSON, and we do application insights. So I've got Copilot enabled on here, so you'll see some coding wizardry at some point. So I'll just tab and I'll accept that, and I'll close and comma that down there. And then I just get rid of that and just go back to application insights, and instrumentation key is the thing that I need. So I'll copy that, go back to there, and I will Control V that in there, which is cool. And then the final thing I need to do, and the MVC templates changed slightly. It's now in programs. It used to be in startup. So I need to do builder services dot application insights telemetry, just to add that service. So if I now save all and then do a .NET run, I'll build that and just run it locally for me. Whilst we're waiting for that to run, just go back to here. I'm going to go over to, I'm in App Insights. I'm going to go to Live Metrics. And here's my hosting on localhost. So go hit that. There's the hello world. Go hit home, privacy. It's not going to do much. But you can see now that it's kicked in and we're wired up to application insights, so we can see some incoming requests from that application. Not much more to see there as you'd expect. Cool, so Control C. So what have we done? So we built that brand new MVC application, we installed the SDK for App Insights, and we wired up server side. What we now need to do is go wire up the client side. So we need to go into views, and we need to go into layout. And at the end of head, what we need to do there is we need to use a little HTML helper called HTML raw. And we need to do a Java script snippet dot full script. Cool. And then you can see there's an error there because we haven't actually imported it yet. So we just need to go inject. And it's oops. Microsoft dot application insights dot Asp Net dot JavaScript dot JavaScript snippet. Fantastic. So if we do a file save all on that, we should see that that error is now gone. And if we do a .NET run on that, go hit that localhost endpoint again. Just get it to do something. Just close that one down. And we should see some more requests coming through. No change there, obviously, because we just wired up the client side of things. But if we go to application map, what we'll begin to see, and this is based upon the logs, And remember, I said there's some latency as far as logs are concerned. So what we'll start to see happen on this application map is the individual components will start to appear on the map, and then they'll connect together and we can see the traffic moving. So the components that we'd expect to see at the moment would be the server side that we wired up to begin with. And then we're going to have a client side as well because we've wired that up, and we'll see that connection as those logs start to go through. We'll see that connection be built, but we'll keep coming back and we'll kind of have a look at that. So let's go do something interesting in here. So let's go add a controller. We'll call it test controller. C#. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Windows key V. And what I'm using is the clipboard history of Windows 11. So you can see here, I cut and pasted some code earlier on. Number one, you don't want to watch me write all this. And number two, I'd probably get it wrong as well. So just correct these namespaces. All this is doing is this is where we're going to call the function. So we're using a HTTP client. We're going to do a get async on this particular URL and pass back the results in text. And here's the function URL that we want. So let's go back into here. Just hit a refresh on here because I can't resist. It's not happening. Oh, there it is. So there's the client side. We'll start to see that build out as we go through. Let's go into this little function that we created earlier on, LunchBytes. Let's add a new function. We'll use a HTTP trigger. We'll call it say hello. Leave the authorization as that. Into code and test, just do it in C# script. Cool. Get rid of all the code that we don't need. Line this up so it compiles. And then in here, okay, save that. Grab this function URL, go back into my code and paste this URL. Appreciate this is just a demo, so we're just taking some easy routes here. Okay, so now we need to go and add a button in here, bring up Control V again. And for those of you who are watching will have seen that div already. And that's just going to add a button and it's just going to call that controller. We're using, as you probably spotted in the controller, we're using attribute-based routing. So if we do a file save all of that, and if I've not made a mistake, we can do a .NET run. We can go hit that localhost endpoint. And we see our button for a start, which is cool. So if we hit that button, we then get hello from function, which is cool. So that's wired up to App Insights. So what we ought to do if we go back there, go back to application map, we can start to see that we've got the client on there. So this is the server side, this is the client side. We've only just introduced this function. So we'll start to see that application map build out as we build out. Fantastic. Cool. So let's do something else. Let's go break something. Let's break that function. So let me do something silly like convert to int 32 ABC. So basically, let's try and convert a string to an int 32 that will save, but will fail at runtime. There we go. There's our error. We go back to App Insights. We go back to Application Map. I'm hoping it starts to build out a little bit more now. You can see it's got our function in there. Do a refresh, it will pick up that error. Let's go error it again. Do a refresh. This is the latency that we're seeing in logs, so it's just taking a little bit longer to go through the platform. The other place we can look again is live metrics. So if we just go do that function again, see live metrics, we can see that we've got an error coming through here. It's giving us a load of information where it is, and it's basically saying that it's on this say hello API. And we can start to drill down and see where this is going. Okay, cool. So I've got one that I created earlier on called a backup, which is exactly the same code that we've just built with a couple of differences. One is I've put the application in a web app, which is here. I've also introduced a time delay in my function of so a sleep on a thread for 10 seconds, just so we can see that pop out in application insights. But everything else is the same. There's another exception as well, another difference as well, which I will show you. But if we start to go look at this application map, we should start to see this build out a little bit more quickly. The other difference that I'll show you is this thing called availability here. So if we go down on the left-hand side of the portal, we can see availability. So there are a couple of ways that we can, so application insights, if you remember from the slide, it does availability testing for us. So we can have a classic test, which is just essentially just pinging a URL. So we put our URL in there, which is what I've done. Or we can add a standard test, which is currently in preview, but it adds things like SSL certs and does a little bit of retrying. This is happening all of the time. This test every 5 minutes, I think, is the default it pings. But you can see that mine's been available for 100% of the time. So if we go back on application map, we can start to see that here's the map building up for proper now. So this is the availability sort of client, if you like, that's calling the server side. We can see that that's 100% available. We can see how many tests has been done, and we can see what the latency is. Here's my client that is calling that backend server, which is calling that function. Cool. So the other thing that I think it's worth looking at is this button here, Application Dashboard. So if I hit the Application Dashboard within Application Insights, it creates a portal dashboard for me. So I didn't have to do any customization here, didn't have to create these widgets myself. The Application Insights will just create this for me, which I think is really neat. And you see lots of customers having these on big screens on the wall, so they can see how things are behaving, the availability, responsiveness, all of those things within their apps. Fantastic. So I now want to just open up the code from that backup. So this is the code from the backup demo that I built, just in case anything went pear-shaped. And it's the one that we've just been looking at with the availability test and stuff like that. The reason I wanted to show you this is I didn't have time to build this from scratch, so just wanted to prepare this one earlier on. So within my home controller, I've basically using this telemetry client, which is part of Microsoft Application Insights namespace. So I'm spinning up a little instance of telemetry client. And this is how we can build custom events, custom metrics, custom tracing. So I think this is just incredibly powerful. So by simply calling the track event method on this client, I can pass in an event. So I can call this whatever I want. I've called it turn on the light, right? So if I go back to here, go back to my resource group for my backup, which is here, go into Application Insights, go into Live Metrics, nothing happening at the moment, so go back to the, this is the website that I put in Azure, so exactly the same code. Go hit the privacy, go back to here. We can see we've got the requests coming in, but if we go look at sample telemetry on the right-hand side, we can say turn on the light, which is the custom event that I put in my code in the home controller for when we hit privacy, which I think is incredibly powerful. This for me falls in the category of, use the platform to the best of your advantage, so you don't have to go build these things yourselves. So go back to this back to the code. So that's the one we've just looked at. We can do the same with metrics. So spin up a little new metric telemetry, give it a name and give it a value, and we can start to build these things up. And because it's part of the platform that we're using, all the things that we can do in Azure Monitor, such as alerting upon a particular event. So if, for whatever reason, you needed to be alerted when turn on the light event actually fired via email, text, SMS, whatever it happens to be, then you can do that, which I think is a real powerful way of using the platform. And I think I'm on time at that, so I'll hand back to Ty, Steph, and Annika.
Thank you so much, Simon. Just getting everyone back in here as we go back to our chat. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time doing the demo. It's so nice to have a demo that didn't have any technical difficulties. So that's like a first that I've seen, which is great. Oh my gosh. We had a lot of really great questions and comments in the chat. But really quick, Tig, what were some of your takeaways before we hop into those?
Yeah, I think my favorite part is application map. I've done a few different programs and applications using that, and particularly working in more of the integration space as well. It's super useful because, like you sort of shown, Simon, you can see the different functions that are being called and triggered, and then having a larger map and showing, like say, drilling down, spotting all the different errors, I think is absolutely brilliant. And I kind of had a question, I guess, that when you have this application map and you've got these rules in place, what do you do then about alerting people of some of the insights that you've got? Is there anything that you typically recommend or go through?
I think that's the sort of coolness of using it in that way, because it is using the platform. So you can obviously set up rules and groups through using Azure Monitor that if you need to drop someone an email or run a workbook, and I guess it depends. The answer to the question is depending upon what the event is. If it's something that's gone wrong and you want to do some compensation, then you can run a workbook to go do some compensation. But if it's just an event that's happened that you feel that someone needs to be aware of something happening, then you can, fire off an email or fire off a text, whatever it happens to be. But I think that the kind of high level point here is that it's using the power of the platform in order to react to something that's happened within your application without you having to know how to send a text or do a particular kind of reaction to an event, because the platform's doing it for you, which I think is the powerful thing.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much for running through that. Annika, did we want to run through any of the questions that we had?
Yeah, we had a ton of questions come up. We have one from Danielle. Can we use app insights in a client-side web application, say a React app?
Yes, absolutely. The SDK is available in a bunch of different flavors. I believe React it's available in React. However, if it were not, or if the question was some other kind of language or framework, then you can always use the custom REST API endpoints. So the answer is yes, no matter what it is. It depends whether you want to use the SDK or whether you just want to craft some REST API calls from within your app. But the answer is yes. Okay.
We had another one from our Twitch family. So they asked, I've always wondered about that because there is a client-side JS script for App Insights, right? Can it be abused by visitors? There was a few questions about that, actually.
Yes, I think that, it is something that you need to be aware of, and I see a lot of that in a lot of the community comments. You can set constraints and thresholds because I suppose at the end of the day, what we're talking about is a cost here, because you pay for application insights in the same way that you pay for Azure Monitor. So it's under the Azure Monitor model. So you're basically paying for ingested telemetry, you're paying for retention of that information, and then the web testing, the availability testing stuff that I showed, you're also paying for that. So I guess the comment is really referring to the ingesting of information, but you can set thresholds on that, so you do have a level of protection that you can enforce there.
Makes sense.
Yes. Was it crowded?
It's not
I can't see anymore.
Oh, yeah. Happy to help. One of the notes was talking about custom metrics and getting dimensions to work together. Fuel Stable was mentioning that it's hard to get those to work, and so they gave up. But do you have any notes on that? This was towards the beginning of your presentation.
Oh, okay. So a lot of the stuff that I did was in a tutorial. So if you do a search for Azure Application Insights, Asp.Net Mvc tutorial, that will show you a lot of how to build custom metrics and custom events.
And I would just like to add something as well, Steph, if that's all right.
Yeah.
One of the open hacks, the serverless open hacks that we run, I know that you'll be mentioning a little bit later, is that one of the challenges within our open hacks does include going through and using custom metrics and linking up to application insights, so that you have a serverless platform that is also sending all of its metrics into App Insights. And I certainly recommend that anyone in the audience who hasn't been on an open hack to give it a go. And our serverless open hack is one that directly links to all of the content that Simon has talked us through today. It's definitely worth giving it a go.
Awesome. Another one from Fuel Stable is, I'm a huge fan of custom metrics, and I think business levels events make a lot of sense. Good fit with great alarms on. but I need my dimensions to break it down. So it's a bit of a longer comment. So in our environment, the app inside workplaces are not shared across apps. Sorry for the giggles in the background. I'm not sure what caused this. Perhaps the guidance is not as good as it could be. How can we migrate to a better setup?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good question. And the guidance around, well, I'll assume it says workspaces, so I assume that you are log analytics workspaces as opposed to App Insights Classic. So the guidance is that you would have different workspaces per environment. So dev, test, prod, for example, and then when you're in production, a sweeping statement is have one workspace with everything going into that telemetry, with all the telemetry going to that workspace, and have the relevant RBAC around that so people can only see what they're allowed to see. But the reality, depending upon the size of your organization, number of apps and stuff like that, the reality is that you tend to see different workspaces being implemented. But I guess the key of the question really is that within an application that has multiple components, for example, a really simple example of MVC function, you need to be, to state the obvious, you need to be pointing those to the same workspace in order to get that application map built out and for App Insights to be able to figure out that actually component A is talking to component B and therefore we need to build them together. But yeah, different workspaces per environment. If you can do one workspace in prod, it's a good thing to do because all of your telemetry is together.
Feels Nable commented back on that one and says, how do we go away from too many workplaces to too fewer? He said, followed that with, because I think we're in a bad spot by mistake.
Gosh, good question. I guess it's just sort of starting that journey to go to fewer workspaces. You can retain the telemetry and the workspace that you're moving away from. So you can create, point them at new workspaces and start that journey, but retain the older workspaces so you've got that information for the retention period that you need it. I hope that makes sense.
Sorry, Steph, you're on mute.
Bound to happen once or twice. Alrighty. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you for the questions and comments throughout the chat. We will scoot on unless Tig, Annika, are there any other questions that you have for Simon?
Yes.
All good for me. Thank you so much, Simon, for this presentation. It's been really good.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Simon, if I could quickly ask, you went through like the deployment of Azure functions and things like that, and those have a traditional infrastructure as code approach that you can go along with as well. Bringing application insights into infrastructure as code as well, what's that process like? Is it something that's easy to set up?
Yeah, it's much better than it used to be, and it is relatively easy to set up. And I always sort of have Scott Hanselman kind of his voice to the left of me when I'm doing demos, which is, don't do a demo and then say, don't do something like this. But the reality when you've got a short amount of time is that you kind of have to pick the messages and pick what you want to demonstrate in order. And I love building things from scratch, so you're not hiding anything. But yeah, to answer your question, Ty, yeah, it fits in nicely, and yeah, you can do things the right way, I guess is the gist of the question, as opposed to some of the stuff that I did in the demo.
No, I'm sure many people have been through that exact experience that you've gone through, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Simon. Thank you so much for stopping in, and we'll move on to the next segment of our show. All right, so a few other useful bites. So if you're already working with us and have an account team tied to you, consider talking to them about participating in OpenHack like Tig mentioned earlier, or having a Cloud Skills challenge run across your team. You could check out other useful resources about this session in particular, what Simon was talking about from aka.ms/lunchbytes/S1E5. I'll pop up in the banners. Or if there's something else that you'd like to hear, if there's like a topic or a segment that you would love an episode about, definitely drop us a note over at lunchbytes@microsoft.com. That would be awesome. Other quick things is we have recently launched our community map on our aka.ms/UK developer. This is a UK-focused website dedicated to our developers in the UK. And one of the really cool things that we just launched is this tech community maps. If you attended Microsoft Build this year, we really honed in on the community map element on our UK-focused event, which is exciting. So go check it out. And if you have a community that's in there that hasn't been highlighted, definitely send us a note, and there's an email to fill out a form on the website. Other things, going off of the note of community, is we have the Welsh Azure user group, which is meeting tonight. It's a virtual event that you can look up on meetup.com. Women in Data has a session tomorrow. That'll be hosted at the Microsoft London Reactor. There's also Pride in DevOps, which is the 30th of June. That's being hosted by the Women in DevOps meetup group. And then there's also the Microsoft South Coast meetup, which is the 5th of July. I cannot believe that June is already flying by so quickly. So if you want to find a local community, again, it's aka.ms/UK community. And if you want your community to have a call out or to be featured in our next LunchBytes session, July 13th, definitely send us a message. Speaking of which,
all right, thank you, everyone. This has been a great episode. And so on the 13th of July, we're excited to announce the next LunchBytes with Joanne and Deepa, and they will be talking about fusion development, which is where pro developers and citizen developers come together, Microsoft Azure and Power Platform, which offer endless possibilities to scale application development. What you'll be learning is how to mix and match the capabilities of Azure Platform and Azure to fulfill enterprise requirements. And some of the technologies that will be covered are integration with APIM through custom connectors, possibly cognitive search, and PCF. So thank you once again for joining, and we all hope to see you in the next episode.
While we have a few more minutes, I just remembered there's something I forgot to make a plug for. We have our very first in-person Azure Adventure Days coming up. So I don't have a slide dedicated to this just yet because we just got the registration page up and running. But here is the link for this first in-person experience at the London Reactor, the 28th of June. A little bit about the Azure Adventure Day is it's an interactive, team-based learning experience designed to enable you to test and learn new skills in a real-world, risks-free, challenging, but also fun environment. So this is something that you can bring yourself, your colleagues, and your friends to that love development as well. A little bit more about what you'll be doing is participants will be working as a DevOps team in a fictitious company to compete increasingly complex challenges without any step-by-step instructions. So subject matter experts will be available to guide your team through this journey if needed. So you don't have to be a DevOps expert. You can come in and we'll help guide you along the way. This is a great way to practice and hone in on your skills. The gameplay itself will have a 6-phase narrative around deployment, scaling, change management, monitoring, security, and cost optimization. Participants of the Azure Adventure Day will learn how to handle real-world scenarios across these 6 phases, hands-on, and build a foundation of skills that is crucial for a variety of technical roles to drive and accelerate successful projects. So registration is now open, aka.ms/Adventure Day. And again, that is June 28th. Registration just opened, so definitely invite your friends, your colleagues, build up a team, and we'll have experts on site to help you hone in on your skills. But yeah, thank you everyone so much. Reminder, like Annika mentioned, to save your calendars for in a few weeks. We'll have July 13th at 12 o'clock, noon BST or 4:30 p.m. IST. So really excited to see you all there. Chat soon.
Thanks, everyone.